Hello, this is Langan Kingsley welcoming you to another episode of A Cup of Poetry. As part of our continuing celebration of National Poetry Month, this week we'll be exploring one of our favorite poems, Lewis Carroll's beloved, baffling Jabberwocky. The information in this episode comes from the Penguin hardcover classics edition of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, edited with an introduction by Hugh Houghton. Lewis Carroll, the man who made it all up, was the pseudonym for the Oxford mathematician and sometimes poet C.L. Dodson. Like many of the stories, anecdotes, and poems described in Alice, Jabberwocky was written by Carroll many years earlier for the amusement of his family and friends, which happened to include an abnormally high number of little girls. One of these girls, his friend's daughter Alice Liddell, served as the chief inspiration and first audience for Alice's adventures. Jabberwocky first appeared in an 1855 edition of Mishmash, a magazine Carroll hand-wrote for his brothers and sisters. He conceived of it as a parody of the revival of ancient English poetry and philological scholarship popular during the middle of the 19th century, even going as far as to title it a fragment. Though the poem's satirical aim may have gotten less hilarious over time, its fascination and delightfulness haven't dimmed one bit. Perhaps it's for the same reason Virginia Woolf so loved Carroll's works. She said, "The two Alices are not books for children. They're the only books in which we become children." Here's Sarah Christensen Fu reading Jabberwocky.
Hi, I'm Sarah Christensen Fu, and I'm going to read one of my favorite poems of all time. This is a poem that I memorized for an acting class. I performed it as a monologue in my high school company class. So here's a shout out to Arapahoe High School and Frank Early. "'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the momraths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the maxgnome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy, O frabjous day, callooh, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the momraths outgrabe.
If that was your first time hearing Jabberwocky and you're a little confused, take comfort. You're supposed to be. As Alice puts it in Through the Looking Glass, "It seems very pretty," she said when she had finished it, "but it's rather hard to understand." You see, she didn't like to confess even to herself that she couldn't make it out at all. "Somehow it seems to fill my head with ideas, only I don't know exactly what they are. However, somebody killed something, that's clear at any rate." Several pages later, Alice runs into Humpty Dumpty, whose boasts don't sound that far off from many literary critics writing today. He says, "I can explain all the poems that ever were invented, and a good many that haven't been invented just yet." However, Alice only gets through the first verse before he stops her. "There's enough to begin with," Humpty Dumpty interrupted. "There are plenty of hard words there." Luckily, those hard words haven't stopped us from continuing to enjoy this fantastic and ridiculous poem. From Sesame Street to the recent release of Tim Burton's take on Alice, it's clear that all who read it can't help but chortle in their joy. I'm Langan Kingsley, thanking you once again for joining me on A Cup of Poetry.